It's episode 4 of Petite Renovation Behind the Build, and in this episode I'm going to be talking about the lounge and dining area, which I opened out into one space. If you're new to this channel, you might want to check back and look at my other videos where in episode 1 I tell you how and why I bought this house at auction. In 2 I talk about the renovation of my kitchen. In episode 3 the transformation of my teeny tiny bathroom, but episode 4 is all about the lounge dining space. Now, there is so much to tell you about this space, and actually it was in this space that I got the most questions and continue to get questions about which wallpaper and which paint colour I used. So if you are doing some decorating soon and want some inspiration, you might want to watch until the end to find out which ones I did use. First thing I needed to do was strip everything out. So I took out the kitchen, the radiators, the flooring. There was wallpaper everywhere. So we had to take wallpaper off the ceiling, off the walls, took all the woodwork. So stripped everything out of that space. And actually what we discovered is the ceilings weren't in great nick. So I had to plasterboard those at a later stage. But my plan was always to open up these 2 rooms. The wide angle lens on my videos makes these spaces look bigger than they are. And with that wall in the middle, the first room you walked into was the lounge, not even big enough to get a proper sofa in that lounge. And the dining room, which was actually the kitchen, but I wanted to become the dining room again, was very small and pokey and just quite dark. So my plan was always to take that wall out to really flood the 2 rooms with light from both the front and the back of the house. And to do that, I needed to get a structural engineer out, because if you're going to take out a wall, you must get it checked by a structural engineer, unless it's a stud wall and obviously not supporting anything. If it is a brick wall, which mine was, I needed a structural engineer. So he came out, told us exactly what we needed in terms of a steel beam. And then we put up some acro props to support the ceiling so that it doesn't all fall down when you take down the wall. And then Justin took an angle grinder and made a nice neat line either side. And then I got the big breaker out and got to play smashing down this wall, which I've been dying to do from the second I saw this house. So we took down the wall. Bo, my daughter, joined in when I got exhausted, because it's a big old heavy bit of equipment. You have to push on it and then it kind of hammer jabs the bricks and knocks them out. It does make it so much easier, but it is actually quite hard work. And we saved any bricks that we could because I needed to block up a door in the kitchen, but it did just make everything so much more. I just felt bigger and brighter, and I was so happy once we did this. Justin knocked out the fireplace because I wanted to open this up and have a log burner in here. Log burners kick out so much heat. They're just much more efficient than an open fire. And the fire that was in there was tiny. It was never really going to heat that space. So Justin used his breaker actually to knock out that fireplace. And as he did it, he came back to the original size of the fireplace, and we could see the bricks running vertically at the top, which meant actually he didn't have to put in a support there, because that was originally how the fireplace was, which was a bonus. So once we'd taken the wall down, Mikkel and Justin lifted up my steel into place to support the wall. And then once that was in, we were able to take down the acro props and start making good the area. By the time it came to plasterboarding downstairs, I had got to grips with plasterboarding, and I had got to grips with using the plasterboard lifter, which is an essential tool if you're doing any plasterboarding on ceilings. I did have my neighbour come and help me. He was really keen to learn how to do a bit of DIY, and that was a great big help, because actually just manhandling those bits of massive sheets of plasterboard on your own was quite difficult. So I was very, very grateful for getting a bit of help. I got Adam from Adam Lee Plastering to come and skim everything once all the plasterboarding had been done. And then once that had dried, I did a full whitewash all over, which was great because I didn't have anything in the space. So it didn't matter if I splashed paint everywhere. I got Jude involved so he could have a bit of fun with the roller. And it was actually a real turning point when you start to get clean surfaces, like clean walls. Anyone who does renovation, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's such a relief to suddenly have nice clean walls, because before it was a very sort of yellowing, tobacco stained. It just wasn't great. I then needed to strip the many, many layers of paint and gloss paint, even worse, off of the windows. I wanted to keep these windows. They were a real feature for the house. I absolutely love that they're tall. Often with those small Victorian terrace properties, you get quite small windows, but that's what I loved about this house, that the windows were big, and I wanted to save them and I wanted to bring them back to their best. So I found through trial and error that the quickest and most efficient way to get the paint off was with a heat gun, but you have to be really careful not to crack the glass, which I did do a few times. but it was hard work. And the biggest thing I learned from this was about lead paint. I did not know anything about lead paint before I started this renovation. And it was actually viewers on Instagram who saw me getting the heat gun out and trying to do the paint that said, be careful, it's not got lead paint. And I tested it and it was lead paint. So from then on, I did use, the right PPE, or what I thought was the right PPE. And then when I was doing this lounge dining room, there was a lot. So I was doing all of the woodwork around the doorways as well as the windows. And I wanted to just get it all done when I didn't have the kids anywhere near the house. So I spent a whole weekend just doing lead paint, and then I felt quite poorly. So I had stomach pains, I felt sick, I had a headache, and I took myself off to the doctors, and they sent me for a blood test, and unfortunately I did get lead poisoning. So it was interesting, and it was a lesson learned, and it was actually one of the followers, again on Instagram, who messaged me to say that the problem was I was using a mask, but the mask I was using was good for sanding lead paint, so the dust wouldn't get in, but actually the gases that are given off when you use a heat gun on lead paint, I was consuming, and that's probably what the problem was. So if you are going to strip lead paint, definitely use loads of really, really high quality PPE and the correct mask for the job, depending on how you are stripping that paint. I needed to put all of the new woodwork back in the room, and the woodwork that was there before, guys, was not good. It wasn't in great condition. It was never high end. This was a worker's cottage. It had been rented its entire life. The cottage was a rental, and so it just didn't have investment of high quality products in there. So I got some architrave and skirting that had a real nice mold to it, and I actually made some new windowsills. I had no idea what I was doing here, and I just made it up as I went along, but I was really pleased that it worked, and the windowsills were, well, in my mind, I thought the windowsills were perfect. I was so lucky with this renovation that a friend, Justin, was in between jobs, and so he came and gave me a hand on this. He helped me a lot with the kitchen and the new roof behind. I couldn't have done it without him. But one of the other massive bonuses was that Justin used to have a Logburner installation business. He was heat house approved, and so it meant that he could install my Logburner for me at a fraction of the cost of what it would cost me if I'd gone to a company. I did a collaboration with Hunter because I absolutely love their Logburners, and I got in contact with them, and I was very, very lucky that they agreed to work with me. And so Hunter Stoves, which, by the way, is a really cool company. I've done a reel about this on Instagram, and I've posted one actually now in YouTube Shorts where I tell you about it. But the company are so cool. They're really, really good at empowering women. Their whole management team in Thailand, where they make the stoves, is all women, which is so cool. That speaks to my heart. And so Justin did the whole thing, and there's a step-by-step guide in my shorts if you want to watch and see how to install a Logburner. Me and my kids love books. We have tons of them. So I was always going to have a lot of bookshelves in the house. And I wanted to have them in the dining room and have this dining room with a one whole wall dedicated to books, just breaking up the wallpaper and the colour that I had in that space. And so my good friend Phil, who I've known for years, very kindly knocked up some bookshelves in his workshop and brought them over. And so we installed those, and I painted them all the same colour. And now this is where we get onto the question that I've been asked the most. What colour paint and wallpaper have I used in the dining room and the lounge? I wanted to create two distinct spaces in this one big room. And you might ask, why did I take down the wall in the first place? It was because I wanted to create more space. The two rooms were very small and pokey, but I wanted to create that definition. I did that with the decor on the flooring. So in the dining area, I did some paneling on the bottom half of the room or the bottom third of the room. And on the top 2/3, I put this beautiful wallpaper called Lucie Annabel called Whimsical Willow in Seafoam, green and fig. And then I took the green colour of the leaves and I used that on the bottom half. And again, it was by Lucie Annabel. It was called Vintage Grey. And it's quite a greeny grey. And actually, funny enough, it's one of those paints that looks quite different in different lights. And in the dining area, it looks more sort of grey green, and in the lounge area it looks more greeny grey, but they're exactly the same colour. And I wanted to have the flow between the two rooms, so they're very much connected in terms of the vintage grey flowing through both rooms, but that sort of definition of having something different in that dining space and having something a little richer and darker. And so I was quite bold with that wallpaper choice, I think. Top tip that Ben, the wallpaperer, taught me is if you're going to have a coloured wallpaper like that, paint the wall behind the same colour as the back of the wallpaper. That way, if there's any shrinkage when you do your wallpapering and a little gap appears between your two sheets, it's not going to be white against plum. And so actually it worked really, really well. So thank you, Ben. Very good top tip. And it was probably in this room that I felt the most confident with my wallpapering. I had done upstairs at this point, and I definitely felt I had got into my groove and was able to do the wallpapering on my own without any assistance from a friend or anything like that. I deliberated for quite a while about what to put around the fireplace. I didn't think an oak fireplace was right. It's quite country cottagey, and this is a sort of Victorian farmer's cottage. Not even a cottage, farmer's end terrace house. And so after a while, I decided to move away from the oak fireplace, and I got in touch with a company called Designer Fireplaces. They had really good ratings, and they were actually brilliant to deal with. Family-run company, which I love, and they had loads of different options, and they have this amazing limestone. And so they made me to measure an incredible, beautiful limestone fireplace, and I was so relieved when we got it in, because it was perfect, and it elevated the space without trying to make the space more regal than it actually was. So I think it struck the right balance. I had all my lighting in the whole house actually from Lighting Direct, and they've got a massive range, and it was just the easiest thing for me, but also the best price. You often forget to budget for things like lights. One of the areas which I did go for luxury finishes on was the brassware, and I used really beautiful antique brass light switches, toggle ones and dimmer ones, as well as the plug sockets, as well as the casement and stays for the windows. And I used a company called Heritage Brass, really good quality, heavy, lovely products. And I just think the whole thing looks so much smarter having it. You kind of either forget to budget for that type of thing or think, is it really worth it? Should I just go with white, cheap light switches? Definitely is worth it. Definitely makes a difference to the end product. So part of my defining these two spaces was in the flooring. In the dining area, I used a wide plank engineered wood flooring, quite a dark, rich colour, because I felt that worked well with the colours that I had in that space, with the plum on the wallpaper and the vintage grey. And I went with a company called Barham Sons. They're actually amazing. They have a huge range of stuff. I actually saw them at a trade show the other day, and I stopped by their stand. They just got everything, and it's really high quality. So I had that in the dining area, and then I wanted soft underfoot, that warm feeling in the lounge, that coziness created that you get from carpet. And so I did go with a light carpet in that space. I used a company called Luxfloors. They did all the carpet, and then gorgeous stair runner in the hallway, which will be coming in the next episode. The actual product was from Lewis Abbott Carpets, and the range was called Pickwick, and the colour was Alfred. So if you are after carpets and you are in the London area, then I definitely reach out up Luxfloors. I filled the house with furniture I already owned, except for the sofa. I wanted a statement piece. I wanted a sofa that had something about it, and I seen a sofa on Facebook Marketplace that I liked the shape of. It was 75 quid. I went and picked it up, and I contacted Linwood Fabrics because I found this fabric. It's called BigTop, and I was in love with it. And I found an upholsterer, Cambridge Upholsterers, who are a couple who are just the loveliest couple and incredibly talented. And I took the sofa and the fabric to them, and they reupholstered the whole sofa. They restuffed it. They brought it back to life, and they gave me back this gorgeous sofa. And I had people who really were not sure about my choice of fabric. I had people messaging me saying, we've really loved everything you've done. I really love your taste, but I'm really not sure about that fabric. I'm sorry, I just don't like it. And once I'd put the sofa in the right space and filmed it, those same people messaged me back saying I'd won them over and they loved it, which was the biggest compliment, and it just made me really happy. And this fabric makes me happy. When I look at it, it just makes me happy. I think that's why it's called BigTop. So Linwood's BigTop fabric, absolutely beautiful. And thank you so much to Cambridge Upholsterers, who did an incredible job. So that's all I can think of for now when I think back on what I did in the lounge dining area. I'm sure I've missed something. If you have a question, please put it down in the comments. Also, just let me know what you think. I love reading your comments. I love the engagement. I really appreciate you watching this video, and I really appreciate you subscribing to this channel. And next up, I will be talking about the hallway. Sounds boring, but it's not, because actually the trickiest tiling job ever happened in the hallway. And I wanted this space to be a space when you walked into, the first thing you see when you walk in a house, I wanted you to go, wow. So if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please do hit the subscribe button and check back to see my next videos, where I will be going through every room in the house, and then I'll have some very exciting news about my next renovation, which is coming soon.